deck furniture, and more. The season's best price is guaranteed. Mention 810 and save more at Family Leisure's inventory liquidation sale. Family Leisure is your one-stop shop for family fun. K10 and Ridgeview in Olathe.
913-888-7727. Awesome.
It's a banner for Kansas basketball.
Kansas City's home of the Jayhawks, March Madness, and the Final Four. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Tip and a steal by McCullough. This could be fun. A two-hand rim rocking jam. Kevin McCullough.
Saturday at 6, the Jayhawks face Texas Tech. Kansas basketball on Sports Radio 810 WHB is presented by Hy-Vee and J. Rieger Distillery.
Hey guys, as the male body ages, testosterone levels steadily decline, but you don't have to accept that. Regain Functional Medicine will help you get your life back with testosterone replacement therapy, just like it did for me. TRT improved my heart and brain function. It helped me sleep better and perform better and even look better. I feel so much better, and you will too with Regain. Visit IFeelMuchBetter.com. Regain Functional Medicine has 2 locations in Leawood and Lawrence. Regain is better.
All right, boys,
Kansas City's hometown sports station. Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City.
America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show for 2 decades, Track Talk, brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. Here are the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm Scott Traylor. He's Kirk Elliott. We're the Racing Boys. Blake back at Sports Radio 810 WHB, spinning the dials. Got Austin O'Neill, Todd Surprise working for us here in Racing Boys HQ. Kirk, how you doing today, bud? You doing all right?
I'm doing great. Not a lot of racing on last night, but there were 2 or 3 we able to watch.
Well,
mostly late model stuff.
Well, we just get right into it then.
No, I'm just saying we're at the time of the year where things are kind of coming down to a trickle here as far as
winding
races.
Down as the season goes.
Winding it down.
Right. Boy, it's cold out this morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like November, doesn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. Kirk, we got a lot of sound we're going to run today. We've got an interview that we did this week with Brady Bacon, Jason Reed, who is the general manager up at Knoxville Raceway, Steve Post, and Scott Delosio. So a lot going on this week. And racing last night, Jonathan Davenport, he picks up the win out there in the XR Super Series in Las Vegas. Superman does it again, doesn't he?
Man.
Leads every lap.
Last weekend at Charlotte and then last night out at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He capping off a historic season where he's closing in on that. Don't think he'll quite make $2 million in winnings this year, but he's going to come darn close to it.
The last I've heard, he's at $1.8 million that he's won this year.
Including that $1 million to win race back in June at Eldora Speedway.
Right, yeah, no doubt. But Jonathan Davenport is the most dominant driver in late model racing this year. Wouldn't you agree with me on that?
Yeah, and he showed that. Talk about dominance. He had a clean sweep last night. He was perfect.
Yeah.
Set quick time, won his heat race, started on the pole, the A main, and led all 40 laps.
Yeah.
Can't do much better than that.
Well, that XR Super Series, they sure do pay good, don't they, Kurt?
Yeah, that's been a high-dollar deal all season long. They've gone to a lot of different racetracks. I went to one of their events up at Stewart Speedway back in June, and their grandstand up there at Stewart Speedway is not big enough to, help pay off a $100,000 purse over 2 days, but I think the video revenue has a lot to do with why they're able to pay off that kind of money.
Jonathan Davenport, he picked up the win last night, JD did, and Brandon Overton was second, Shane Clanton was third, Tim McCready was fourth, and Stormy Scott was fifth last night. So pretty good racing. The track conditions not always the greatest out there at Las Vegas, though, is it?
No. Now, sometimes it's hard for me to tell if it did take rubber. Now, I know it did on Thursday night, but did it take rubber last night?
Well, we saw some flat tires, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. But I'm not sure. Austin, you were watching a little bit of that race there. Could you tell if that took a little bit of rubber or not? What'd you see?
I didn't see rubber at Vegas.
Last night?
For the first time, I haven't. Now, who's to say what tonight's going to look like with having 2 nights of racing on it?
Right.
But no, it was better than the first night, and actually did not take rubber from what I could tell.
But we saw some tires, and I think that might have been from debris, because we saw a few wrecks during the evening. Last night, Bobby Pierce and Jimmy Owens got together in a heat race, and there was a lot of debris out on the racetrack from that wreck. And I'm not so sure that maybe some guys were cutting down some tires last night.
And Bobby Pierce, who did well on Thursday night, had to start towards the back of last night's feature race. And he made a little bit run up through the field, too, didn't he?
Right. Jimmy Owens started 24th. And
Pierce 21st and ended up, 3, 6, 7th? 7th place last night.
Yeah. But really, when they made contact, when Jimmy Owens and Bobby Pierce made contact together, it did more damage to Jimmy Owens' car. His right front, it looked like he broke an A-arm, and then he came up in front of Bobby Pierce, and they got together, and it tore up his car pretty good, and that's why Jimmy Owens had to start at the back.
And, but, the Superman, number 49, did what he has done many times this year, start on the pole and lead every lap to take home the big prize.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about Kyle Bronson picking up the win last night in Flow Night in America. What is the name of that racetrack? Sonoya
Raceway.
Sonoya Raceway.
Yeah, the Peach State Classic.
Kyle Bronson picks up the win there. What'd you think of that race? It looked like that Mike Muller had a chance to win that race, didn't it, Kirk?
It did, until he made contact with Ashton Winger in turn number 3 with a handful of laps to go. Marlar was not very happy about that.
He was not happy.
They asked him what happened. He said, I got run over.
I got ran over.
He says, I think I would have won the race.
Yeah. And it looked like he had enough speed to win the race. He was getting up there next to Kyle Bronson, and it looked like he had enough speed maybe to win that race. What did you think?
Right ahead of that incident, he did get up beside Bronson and looked like he wasn't able to pull off the pass at that point, but at some point over the last 10 laps, he felt that he would eventually got around him. I'm not sure about that. Bronson ran a great race last night, but he feels that he would have had a shot at it.
I think that Mike Muller had a chance to win that race last night, no doubt. It looked like it. And Kyle Bronson was the winner of that race in the 40B car. Spencer Hughes, Garrett Alberson, Dennis Erb, and Hudson O'Neal. Hudson O'Neal spun right at the end of that race. Did you see that where he made contact with another car?
Yeah, another car turned him around and spun around. He still ended up 5th after starting 16th.
I think it was the 31 of Tyler Millwood was the guy that he got together with.
Right.
Yeah. So, what did you think about that racetrack?
They were lucky to get that race in because there was a hurricane that went through that area and dumped a lot of rain on that racetrack. They put tarps on both ends of the racetrack, and they even had a helicopter out there to help dry it. It's miraculous that they were able to get that track ready to go racing last night.
They covered the corners with tarps. Did you see that?
I saw that.
Yeah. Put a bunch of tires down on a bunch of tarps that were laying on the racetrack to keep the corners dry, and they were successful at that as well.
It was a heavy racetrack, but it's hats off to the track crew there for getting that track ready to go, because I don't think anybody thought that they were going to get that show in last night.
Well, and they did, and they put the effort in to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Good run by Spencer Hughes, who ends up in second place in that race, and a nice finish for Garrett Albertson, who started 11th and ended up third ahead of Dennis Erb Jr., who just recently was crowned the World of Outlaw late model champion.
But Dennis Erb started 19th, Kirk.
Great run up through the field.
And ran 4th last night. That was a heck of a run.
Yeah.
By the 28 car.
So that was an action-packed race on a heavy racetrack down in Georgia last night. They'll do it again tonight for $50,000. $53,000, matter of fact.
Right. A lot of money in late model racing. If you were gonna get into a sport right now, late model racing would be where it was at, right?
Yeah. And hey, there's other big late model news that came out yesterday. The Lucas Oil Late Model Series dropped its 2023 schedule, and a couple of things of note. The Silver Dollar Nationals at Huset's Speedway next year. For years at I-80 Speedway, pays the same as it did at I-80, $53,000 to win in the third weekend of July next year at Huset's Speedway. And the other big note is the Dirt Track World Championship for several years, held at many different racetracks. Most recently at Portsmouth Raceway, will go to Eldora Speedway.
Right.
So Eldora is going to have 3 big crown jewel events, the Dream, the World 100, and then in October of next year, the Dirt Track World Championship.
Huset's is getting right up there with Eldora, isn't it? It's got that $250,000 to win sprint car race.
High Bank Nationals, that'll be in
High
June
Bank
of next year.
Right. And then they've got this late model race. It's kind of putting Huset's back on the map a little bit. You know, that's going to be a really good race on that little bitty racetrack up there, too.
If you remember, they had an event up there right ahead of this year's Silver Dollar Nationals that, they hadn't run late models up there that much, if ever, at Houston Speedway. And they had an event up there ahead of the Silver Dollar Nationals, and I think everybody was pretty happy with the way that turned out. And we knew going in that there's only a handful of guys that had the wherewithal to put an event like that on, pay out the kind of money that these drivers were used to receiving at the Silver Dollar Nationals, and stage an event. And, we talked about Todd Quiring being one of those guys. And sure enough, this event is going to go to Huset's, Sioux Falls.
Yeah. I had some sprint car racing going on last night as well. Dominic Scelzi picks up the win with the ASCS Southwest region down there at Kokopah Speedway in Yuma, Arizona. Dominic Scelzi picks up the win. Austin McCarl was second. Ryan Timms was third. Colton Hardy was fourth. And Nick Parker, a regional guy down there, ended up running in the top 5. It had a lot of good names there last night as well.
Sammy was there.
JT Imperial was there. You talk about Ryan Timms, Austin McCarl, Dominic Scelzi. A lot of good names running down there last night.
Sammy Swindell, just 2 weeks ago, turned 67 years old.
As much as I really love watching Sammy race, it's just about ready for him to hang it up, isn't it? Don't you think, Kurt?
I think I'm going to trust him to make that decision. I don't think he's going to enjoy just riding around, but he's pretty close to that right now. But doing what he's doing at the age of 67, I'm going to say Sammy. I'm going to trust Sammy to make that call. When he feels he's not having any fun doing this anymore, he'll make that call.
First of all, he has to make a living, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is how he makes his living, driving sprint cars.
But you only make a really good living if you're winning.
Do you think Sammy made enough money in his career, Kirk?
I don't know.
To be able to retire. Do you think he made enough?
I have no clue what kind of finances that he has.
You don't even have an inkling of an idea.
I don't know. I would assume that he's made a lot of money over the years and been able to salt some of it away, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that there's a chance that Sammy has made enough money in his career that, to be honest with you, I think Sammy could make a living just selling T-shirts, to be honest with you. Kevin does a really good job selling those Swindell Speed Lab shirts. And I think Sammy could sell enough T-shirts to make a living off of that. Just that alone, don't you think?
I don't know. There's a lot of money in T-shirts, but can you earn a big living? I suppose you could.
I'm not sure.
And when you're a legend like Sammy Swindell, you're going to sell a lot of shirts, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So you saw the race last night. I didn't get to watch it. So
Right.
you said Ryan Timms was a big factor in
Well, Dominic Scelzi and Ryan Timms, they raced each other pretty hard there for a little bit earlier in the race. And Ryan Timms kind of faded a little bit there and ended up running third. Austin McCarl got around him right there at the end. But, that's a pretty good names going down there. You think about Dominic Scelzi running there, Austin McCarl, Ryan Timms.
Logan Foiler was there.
Logan Foiler was there. Logan had to come out of the B main. He won the B main. He started 17th. He ended up running 6th last night.
27 cars? Not a bad number.
It's not a bad number for down there in Yuma.
They'll do it again tonight.
Yeah.
Track good shape?
The track was in pretty decent shape last night. Yeah. The problem with Kokopall is that there's a lot of sand in that racetrack, and it abuses the tires a little bit down there. So we've seen it. I don't know how many did we do down there, Kirk? We did quite a few of them, didn't we?
Yeah, it seemed like 8 or 10 years you were going down there.
Yeah.
Doing broadcasts at Kokopall Speedway.
Yeah.
Staying in the casino.
Yeah. So, Kirk, a little drag racing going on right now.
Big drag racing.
Yeah.
This is the World Finals at Pomona Raceway, the final event of the season for the NHRA. Top Fuel points as well as funny car points on the line. Erica Enders has already wrapped up her 5th Pro Stock Championship. And Matt Smith looks like he's going to win his 6th in Pro Stock Motorcycle. But we still have the 2 Nitro classes up for grabs. And funny car, Robert Height and Matt Hagan going at it. And Brittany Force going for her 2nd Top Fuel Championship, and she holds a slim lead over Justin Ashley. And last night, Friday night qualifying, she set the national record in speed for a Top Fuel dragster at over 338 miles per hour. She did it here just a few weeks ago at St. Louis, and she even topped that last night. David Grubnick and the John Force Racing team trying to salt away this championship, and they're off to a pretty good start this weekend. Let's hear from Brittany Force after last night's historic run.
Yeah, that is a great start for our team to, really be able to grab those points wherever we can. And it's 1.5 points here this weekend in Pomona. And pretty awesome to run the 3:38 and, grab that mile per hour at my home track. That was pretty exciting. When I got out on the other end, they said 3:38. And I said, did we beat our St. Louis 3:38? What were the numbers on it? And they said, yeah. So it's pretty cool to hold that track record here at home. My home racetrack that I grew up running. Love it here.
She ran a 3:64 with a 1.
Yeah. Number 1 qualifier right now. So, and you're in points if you're the number 1 qualifier. So if you set any kind of records, that adds points. And as she pointed out, it's 1.5 points this weekend. So she's in great shape to really produce. And she might not even have to win the race, but if she can go deep into the rounds on Sunday, she very well could pull off that 2nd championship this weekend.
Kirk, is Tony Stewart racing this weekend?
I'm not sure about that. If you remember a couple of weeks ago at Las Vegas, he raced that top alcohol dragster. I'll check on that. I'm not sure if he's racing.
He did really well, too, didn't he?
Yeah, he finished 2nd. He made the finals.
He made it to the final round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lost to a 20-year-old girl.
Right.
But he was happy about that. He had a really good run.
For Tony Stewart to never run in a top alcohol dragster and to make it all the way to the final round, that's a huge accomplishment, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Of course, he's probably going to be more focused in on trying to get his funny car driver, Matt Hagan, to the championship circle. Matt Hagan going for his 4th championship. And that'd be something to win a world championship in the first year of team ownership. And they've got a real shot at doing that, but they've got to get past Robert Hite to do it.
Yeah, no doubt. Robert Hyatt, he's one of the best, isn't he?
Yep. And he's also going for his 4th championship.
We had Robert Hyatt in our studio once, didn't we?
We had Robert and John, and you had Tony Schumacher and
Don Garlitz, Roland
Big
Leon.
Daddy.
Roland Leon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to watching the races out at Pomona this weekend. That's the big racing event across the country this weekend since NASCAR's already finished up.
What'd you think about that Cup race?
Joey Logano, and we should have known, we had Lee Spencer on last week, and she predicted Joey Logano would win it based on getting into the Final Four 3 weeks ahead of the event by winning that race at Las Vegas. That gave he and the Team Penske team time to really get that race car ready to go and prepare for that final race. And I think she was right about that. They had the edge in preparation of getting ready for that final race. And they qualified number 1, and they led the most laps, and they performed in dominating fashion last week. So they earned it. Joey Logano's 2nd championship. Good for him.
About Okoye Gibbs passing away.
Oh, man, that is shocking.
The day after his son wins the championship.
Golly. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean,
49 years old.
We see that. We're sitting there watching the pre-race show yesterday, and they delivered that news, and I mean, I'm stunned. It's hard to believe because we just saw him at the racetrack the day before. He appeared in the post-race press conference after Ty had won that championship and doesn't wake up the next morning.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to really feel for Joe Gibbs and his family.
Because they've lost
JD. Both their sons now in a span of little less than 4 years.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. No doubt about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to play some sound from Brady Bacon, Jason Reed, Steve Post, and Scott Delozio right here on I said almost Mostly Motorsports, didn't I? I say it all the time, every day. Mostly Motorsports during the week, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Central Time. You can watch it right here on Facebook as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more of Track Talk. It's all brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works. We'll be right back.
Track Talk. Next to your vehicle's engine, your transmission is the most important component of your car. If it's not properly maintained, your car may not shift properly. By adding Lucas Transmission Fix to your transmission, it cleans and lubricates sticking valves for proper shifting, renews worn bands to stop slipping, stops seal leaks, will not void new car warranties, contains no harmful solvents. Lucas Transmission Fix. It works.
Ryan Radke here from Sunday Night Football on Westwood One. Brady Quinn and I have the call when Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers take on Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Bolts at 5-3 are just a game back in their division, while the 49ers are coming off their bye week at 4-4 and looking for a strong second half start. Join us on Sunday Night Football.
Right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're the one who protects the flock, and that requires an eye for detail. Because when safety and well-being are on the line, it's the details that can save lives. Even when no one else is watching, you see everything. Grainger gets you, and we're here for you, and all the ones who get it done with a wide range of safety products and solutions, plus board-certified safety consultants here to answer your questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
O'Reilly. Count on the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your vehicle and budget. Get maximum cooling system performance for 10 years or 300,000 miles with Peak Long Life Universal Pre-Mixed Antifreeze and Coolant. Now just $3.99 after mail-in rebate. Limit supply. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Friday Night Lights, college game days, and of course Red Sundays are what Kansas City is all about right now. And nothing goes better with football than Joe's Kansas City Barbecue. Joe's Championship Barbecue is perfect for your tailgate or your house party. Joe's smoked brisket, pulled pork, turkey, and ham are available by the pound, and teamed up with their incredible sides makes for a game-winning meal for the entire team. Order online right now at joeskc.com. Order on the app or visit one of their 3 locations, Olathe, Leawood, and the original in the gas station in KCK.
Over 35 years ago, Wholesale Batteries opened their doors and sold their first battery. Times have changed, but their commitment to customer service is the same. The commitment they made back in 1977 stays true today. Wholesale Battery is one of the largest distributors of motorcycle batteries in the country. Stop in for anything you need for your motorcycle. They also have you taken care of for all your lawnmower needs, laptops, ATVs, power sports, computer backups, cell phones, portable electronics. When it comes to batteries, these guys have it all. Call 913-342-0113 or at wholesalebatteries.net. The right battery the first time.
Don't miss out on all the great specials from the Butcher Block at your neighborhood hen house. The only place you find the finest beef. USDA Choice Certified Hereford beef. T-bone steaks are $7.99 a pound. Porterhouse steaks only $8.99 a pound. How about fresh 80% lean ground beef? Ground fresh several times each day. Perfect for burgers. Just $2.99 a pound. You can also get boneless beef rump roast. Just $3.99 a pound. And if you love seafood, they have easy peel. Argentine red shrimp, 16 or 20 count, just $7.99 a pound. Find all these specials and more at henhouse.com. Hen House, serving your family and mine since 1923.
Load up on savings with a new Bobcat compact track loader. For a limited time only, Bobcat is offering 0% financing for 24 months on all new Bobcat compact track loaders. While the weather's cold, the deals are hot. To rent or own, call or visit Casey Bobcat in Blue Springs, Olathe, or Tracy. See their selection at caseybobcat.com. Offer expires December 31st, 2022.
Icon is seeking healthy non-smoking men and women ages 18 to 55 to participate in a clinical research study at our facility in Lenexa, Kansas. Volunteers must be available for 1 stay of 6 nights and 1 follow-up phone call. Qualified participants may receive compensation up to $4,800 for time and travel. Call Icon today at 913-210-5900. That's 913-210-5900.
For those who believe some of the best memories are made in flip-flops, Pro-Built Pool and Patio salutes you. Summer may be in the rearview mirror, but we prefer to live it 24/7. As the largest in-ground fiberglass pool builder in the Midwest, Pro-Built Pool and Patio specializes in making your outdoor oasis come to life, no matter the season. For the best in backyard pools and spas, Pro-Built dials up the creativity with the perfect gift for yourself and your family. Call 816-786-3893 or visit us at ProBuiltPatio.com.
Looking for a local company that can take care of your team apparel needs? Check out Jocksnitch. They're a local company in Lenexa at the corner of College and Flum. At Jocksnitch, they take care of your team's custom uniform and sports needs. They offer all custom uniforms for every sport, for travel teams, rec leagues, schools, clubs, and more. Jocksnitch can design your next custom uniforms and deliver on time. Samples to size your team up. Stop in and experience personalized service to get your uniform just the way you need it, or shop online at jocksnitchpromo.com.
You got the sports look good today. Sporting goods from Jocks.
Sometimes I grow so tired. But I know I'm one thing I got to do.
Welcome back to Track Talk. It's all brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works. Kirk, Brady Bacon picked up the Oval Nationals out at Paris Auto Speedway. No surprise there, though.
No, I mean it's been a tough week on the Bacon family.
Been a very
too.
tough week on. His grandfather passed away last week, and it was just not good timing on. Ted was his grandfather's name. He was such a good guy, man. I knew Ted. He such a great guy. The first generation of the 3 generations of the Bacon family, and Brady had a lot of motivation try to win this race.
It was just his weekend
Yeah.
out there. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. He'd won preliminary nights before at the Oval Nationals, but had never won on Saturday night, which is a big surprise to me.
Yep.
I didn't realize that till I went and looked through past winners, and Brady Bacon wasn't among those.
Right.
But he is now, and after his big win on Saturday night at Paris Auto Speedway, he was on Mostly Motorsports with Scott Traylor. And here's a bit of that conversation after Brady Bacon's big Oval Nationals victory.
Brady Bacon joins us now. Brady, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, man, congratulations on the big win out there at the Oval Nationals. It's the first time. You know, it's kind of mind-blowing that you haven't won that before, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, we've been close. We've won some prelim nights and stuff, but it's definitely a tough race to win. Kind of the track gives you some curveballs, and then also you kind of get a little bit penalized for. We've been high point guy there several times, and then you have to start sixth in the dash. And sometimes if they rework the track and stuff, in the past it's been so heavy that it's hard to pass anybody. So. We've had that happen to us before, had some mechanical problems before, just had some bad luck before, and then just been slow. So, but we kind of overcame all that this year and were able to get a win.
Yeah. Talk about the track this year. What was it? Was it typical Paris Auto Speedway? Was it the surface kind of like it always is every year when you go out there?
Yes, similar. I mean, I think that their tracks that they get locally
are
a little different than what it is during Oval Nationals. They don't ever race multiple days in a row, so that, you know, brings some challenges. You got to keep the track hard enough to not get rough, but you have to get the water in the next day. So I think that kind of throws the West Coast guys for a little bit of a loop, but you know, it got close to taking rubber at the very, very end a couple nights around the top, but before that, there was multiple lanes of racing throughout the race. So it was a little cooler this year than normal, actually chilly. So that probably helped the track a little bit too. But the second night was a little bit different than the first, and then the third night was kind of a combination of the first two. So we were lucky to kind of hit our setup right and had a good car for Saturday, and it paid the big money.
Well, you were ripping the top on both ends there, but that yellow came out, and you worked the top down in 3 and 4, but then you went to the bottom down in 1 and 2. But then after the yellow came back out again, you went back to the top. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the Friday night we got the top rolling and drove right up to third, and then kind of all at the same time, some people moved up from the bottom to the middle, and it kind of dirtied up the top. And then at the same time as that, there was a lot of grease still yet on the exit, especially at turn 2, and that kind of cleaned up all at the same time. So we kind of had 2 lanes that got faster than our lane, like in the course of like 1 or 2 laps, and kind of caught us off guard. So we tried to avoid that happening again, and I knew that bottom of turn 2 was probably going to come back in at some point. So I didn't want to, let someone sneak by me down there. And then once I felt like it slowed back down, I moved back up to the top.
Yeah. Was it me, or did it seem like some of the lap cars were giving you a little bit of a fit?
Yeah, I mean, once it gets kind of up around the top, that place is kind of hard to make some moves and pass. So, and they're racing for position too. And, you got to be aggressive, but patient at the same time. And luckily it wasn't terrible, didn't hinder us too awful much. But, we were able to go ahead and get by him and make it unscathed, I guess.
Yeah. You were talking about the $20,000 it paid to win that race, but then you get an extra $10,000 from Spire. And that really, you talk about that in great length about how that helps you get through the winter months when you're not racing. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to USAC and everybody and kind of open wheel racing in general for over the past, 2 or 3 years, really, stepping up and raising the purses a little bit with the point fund, especially in USAC. I mean, I made more in point fund money this year by running second in points and winning the Bubby Jones Master Going Faster bonus than I won in my first 2 championships combined. So that's a big step in not a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, and even not winning the championship used to be like, if you didn't win, it was kind of not going to make any money that year.
Yeah.
So even now you can run second, get some other bonuses. Sprint week pays $10,000 to win the points. The Master Going Faster is $10,000 to win. $50 to win the championship, $30 for second. Obviously, $20,000 to win the race. So it's come a long way. I don't think we're done by any means, because our expenses increased just like everybody else's this year,
right.
In every industry. So, I hope we can keep trudging away, improving for the racers, and the streaming and stuff adds some benefit and some complication to that. But everyone's going to have to kind of work together to find a balance and figure that out, where kind of everyone's getting what they deserve, and we keep the sport healthy.
Do you think live streaming these events, does that help you when you go out to sell your sponsorship? Does it help you when you can tell people that you're going to have thousands of eyes watching the races on Flow or whatever network that you want to watch, Extreme, whatever it is? Does it help you a little bit knowing that you're going to be a lot of these races on TV?
In theory, it should, but we are not necessarily provided with the best information on that.
Yeah.
The demographics and things like that, where if that was readily available to the teams, it could help us, to present that to sponsors and stuff. But honestly, what helps the most is that our sponsors personally can watch the race and be engaged. Whether I have sponsors in South Dakota, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Texas, all over the country, and all those people can watch the races. That actually helps us more than, the monetization of the viewership, which a lot of people talk about how we should be able to monetize that, but no one's really been able to monetize it.
Right.
There he is, Brady Bacon, smart guy. I mean, I love the way he was talking about how to monetize live video and presenting it to sponsors. I mean, this guy is a pro's pro.
Well, and he's probably one of the best at driving a wing sprint car, a non-wing sprint car, and a midget. There wasn't a lot of people like Jesse Hockett that could do that, and Brady Bacon is one of those guys, right?
Yeah, we heard word that, and it's not official yet, that non-wing sprint cars are coming back to Knoxville next year over the Hall of Fame weekend. They just got to make that official, but it's going to happen.
Second and third.
Right.
Yeah.
No one was more excited to hear that news than Brady Bacon, who won back-to-back Corn Belt Nationals wins up there and always does great in a non-wing car at Knoxville.
Kirk, I just got a little information from Darren Bennett, the general manager out at Lakeside Speedway. As you know, Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson have put together what they've called the High Limit Sprint Car Series, and they will be coming to Lakeside Speedway April 5th, and it will pay $50,000 to win that race.
Wow.
At Lakeside Speedway.
I don't have a calendar in front of me. What night of the week is that?
I'm not sure what night that is.
That'd be a midweek show, I would assume. That's when these events are scheduled. But, man, that is great news.
$50,000 to win.
How about that?
Lakeside Speedway getting one of the high limit races. Now, how many races were they going to run this year? Did they say?
I can't remember.
Somewhere around 15 races, I believe it is. Right?
Austin might have that information.
Austin, isn't that right? About
12.
12? They put a cap on it at 12, right? What do you think about that race coming out there, high limit race coming out to Lakeside Speedway?
Man, it should be pretty good. Kind of surprised that, we get to. Let's try this again. We can our local track around here gets a show like that. I'll be interested to see what the crowd and the car count looks like. But mean, 50,000 a win, that might be the biggest payday I think Lakeside has ever had in its current history. So it should be a pretty cool, event, and it's going to get a lot of teams around here excited, and I definitely think it's going to be something big, and I don't really know what to say at this point. I'm kind of surprised to hear that.
That's on a Wednesday night, too. You said April 5th?
April 5th, yeah.
A Wednesday night. And, the only thing that kind of gives you pause that time of the year, you don't know what the weather's going to be like. You hope it's good weather to bring the fans out to the racetrack. But that would be the only thing that I would question is hope they get good weather that night.
How many cars do you think that we'll get for that race? 50,000 to win.
Now, you're not going to get the World of Outlaws guys to attend that.
Right.
But there's still plenty of race car drivers all over the country.
How many cars do you
that
think,
would
Austin?
come and participate in that event?
Oh, you're going to have a ton of cars.
Yeah.
You're going to have a ton of cars.
40,
Wednesday
50
night,
cars.
you're going to have cars from Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota come down. You'll have cars around here try and run it. It'll be interesting to see where the Outlaws are. So the rumor going around now is the Outlaws are going to skip out on their, spring Western swing and not go to California, Oregon, and Washington early in the year. They're going to wait till the end of the year to do that. So, I mean, if I don't see them opening up the platinum package rules and allowing drivers to run the High Limit Show and their series. But
that
I mean,
will never happen.
If they're around town, you're going to have the pull of the Outlaws and the pull of High Limits, and it's going to be a huge car count. So, when the Outlaws come to town for a 10,000 win show, it's 38 cars, and you add $50,000 on top of that, or an extra, $40,000 to make it 50,000 a win. I wouldn't be surprised to see 50 cars.
The rainout date will be on the 12th.
Which would be exactly 1 week after that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So, anyway, the World of Outlaw schedule has not been released for next year, so we don't know exactly where they're going to be around those dates.
How many teams do you think will pull out of the All-Stars, pull out of the World of Outlaws, and go run the High Limits deal? Austin, do you think there'll be anybody that will do that?
Explain to me how we're gonna make a living off of 12 races. You're gonna be forced to win at least 2 to 3 of those races to make a decent living. You're not gonna see. Maybe Brad Sweet might pull off the Outlaw Tour to run a series, or he can do what he can do what he did at the first event. I'm trying to think of. I think it was Putnamville. Where he was just an official that night and embraced his role in running the series. So you give up too much money pulling out of the platinum package with the Outlaws. You're guaranteed $1 million in bonus money throughout the year. That's not including your payout at the end of the night based on where you finish. So there's no way a team that is a let's say a field filler for the Outlaws. That's just they don't have a top 10 car every night, and they're just making the shows. I mean, you can't go out there and run a high limit deal and be an outlaw and make the same money. You're gonna lose money and fold up.
Yes, that's the whole point of running these midweek shows, is so they can still run their normal outlaw weekend schedule and still get to this show. But the whole thing of it is the geographic location of where these events are in the middle of the week have to be reasonably close to the other events that these other drivers want to race on the weekend.
I've got a feeling that the World of Outlaws are going to be rubbed by this.
Well, they already are.
Yeah, no doubt.
But as Brad Sweet pointed out, and Kyle Larson too, they didn't want to affect the World of Outlaws, even though they are. I think the first rub was announcing this high limits at Eldora Speedway on the same weekend as the Eldora events. That didn't sit well with the Outlaws officials, but I still believe that having these events in the middle of the week shouldn't affect all that much the plans of what these other guys want to do on the weekends.
I couldn't agree with you more, Kirk. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to play some more sound, and it's right here on Track Talk on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's all brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works. We'll be right back.
That to-do list you have needs one more thing. Chill. It's an easy thing to do. Just crack open an ice-cold Coors Light and chill. Take the afternoon off and binge watch anything. Go to happy hour and stay for a couple hours. Who's counting anyways? Or hang out with just your dog, because you've had enough human interaction this week. Whatever you do, do it with a Coors Light. Mountain cold refreshment made to chill. 2020 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
Hey, Soren Petro here. When you need brilliant, sparkling diamonds, go see my friend Gary Joslin and his family at Joslin's Jewelry. For 40 years, Gary has stood behind everything in his store, from thousands of small jewelry repairs to that once-in-a-lifetime engagement ring. Joslin wants to be your jeweler for life. That's why Joslin's is the jeweler you'll recommend to your friends and family. See him at 95th and Antioch, online at joslinsjewelry.com.
Joslin's Jewelry for the best that's yet to come.
Hello, it's Mark Whitlow from Office Products Alliance. Kansas City is on a roll. So many good things are coming our way. Many outsiders are realizing what a great community we have built. They are moving here and planning major events here. Our community's local businesses and their leaders have played a significant role. Let's continue to support our local businesses. Together, we can make Kansas City a better place for all of us. Check us out at opakc.com.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
When you want Chiefs, follow the leader. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Maybe where you are top 5 in a poll of the most handsome coaches in the NFL.
Well, first, I think he should be higher, man. That's a good-looking gentleman out there. So he's got some swag to him too. So you get the personality to match.
Your home for the NFL. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Welcome back to Track Talk. It's all brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works. Kirk, we visit with Steve Post every Wednesday. Steve Post, if you don't know, is the lead pit reporter for MRN for the Cup races. And he's also the host of Winged Nation, which they talk a lot about sprint car racing on that show. And Steve Post, a good guy.
Yeah, and boy, he was right in the middle of it last weekend down at Phoenix, covering the events, championship weekend, and Joey Logano winning his second championship. And here's a little bit of the wrap-up from Phoenix at Scott Trailer Head with Steve Post on Mostly Motorsports earlier this week.
Joey Logano did what he had to do, didn't he?
Good Lord. They went to Phoenix. We talked about this, Scott, a little bit, I think.
Yep.
The fact that they had 2 weeks to prepare. You know, the fact that they locked in Las Vegas, and while everyone was worried about Homestead and everyone was worried about Martinsville, they were locked in, and they massaged on that Phoenix car and massaged on the Phoenix car. But I think where they really put the effort in was how are they going to approach that 50-minute practice session on Friday. And when I say they, I mean the 22 car, but Team Penske. You know, and remember throughout Homestead and Martinsville, you still had Ryan Blaney trying to race his way in.
Right.
But I think what happened is when Blaney failed to get in, I think there was a master plan at Team Penske for one car in Phoenix and 2 cars in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Blaney and Joey who qualified in. And the detail that they went into this practice session, we had Paul Wolf on Crew Call, our show today, and I talked to Paul out there over the weekend. They went in there, each of the Penske teams had 2 or 3 things they wanted to try. And it was all put together in advance. They went out there. The 22 car was rock solid with all 3 things they tried. The 12 car stumbled onto something in the second run of that race that was better. The 2 car and even the Wood Brothers car was good as far as qualifying goes. And I think they just went out there and they had on Sunday morning, and then they won the pole position on Saturday. On Sunday morning, I asked Paul, I said, this weekend looks like it's gone about flawless for you. How has it been? And he said, it's been about flawless. And on the grid, I asked Joey Logano, I said, I talked to your crew chief, and he said it's been flawless. From the driver's perspective, I said, how's it been? He said, it's been flawless. The way that they went out there, the approach that they went out there, they were zeroed in on one prize. There was no distractions, no anything. And then at the end of the race, I had Joey in the champions interview, and I said, we talked about flawless earlier, and he said, and he laughs. Of course, he's a goofy kid. I love chatting with Joey. And he said, well, we didn't lead every lap, so we weren't flawless. You know, but Scott, that was their focus, their confidence, their focus was impressive to watch, and they just really took it to everybody all weekend long, and then particularly when it mattered on Sunday. Paul on our crew call show, he said, when you're rolling that good, your only concern is how do I not screw it up, and they didn't screw it up. It was impressive to watch, that's for sure.
Let me ask you this, Steve, because you were there and you had your eyeballs on it. But I believe that Ryan Blaney was faster than Joey Logano at the end of that race, and he was his main job was to run interference for Joey Logano when Ross Chastain, if he was able to get up there. Do you agree with that?
It's so tough to say, but I think that's a definite possibility. You just don't know. Ironically, Roger Penske prior to the race said the best scenario would be the 12 car to win the race and the 22 to finish second. So and maybe that's Roger hedging on comments or things, but you get a car to win a race, you get some bonus money and stuff like that. And Ryan hadn't won a race. So, and Ryan's reaction afterward was of significant frustration in the performance of the car, frustration because he felt like he had to do what he had to do, So I think it's very possible that you're right on that. But boy, I'm telling you that maybe you're not either, because that they were both really, really good race cars, and who hit the right setup, Joey got off from pit road first. He started that race in the third spot on the last restart.
Yeah.
He got out of there and ended up in front. And passing was difficult there. We still have an issue with passing. Once these cars get strung out, that's why those restarts were so chaotic. Because once you get in line and once you get a little bit of wear on those tires, passing is difficult. So the Blaney running second thing, I could argue that you're probably right on that, but then I'm not 100% sure with the challenge that passing was and some of the things Roger had said, and I don't know that that's the case either. It's a tough thing to say definitively for sure.
You talk about those restarts, Ross Chastain getting into the back of Chase Elliott. What's your thoughts on that there? That's just good hard racing. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Yeah.
I mean, when you all bets are off when you run 40 feet off from the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing. When they dive down there, you have introduced chaos into your world. And when you do it 3 and 4 wide, which they all do, bottom line of it is one move a foot or two to the right or to the left. And to me,
Right.
Ross has been a fascinating character this year, because there's been a lot of times when he stood on the front stretch after these races and say, I've got to do better. That's on me. I've got to be better. I've got to be better. There was none of that on Sunday afternoon. Ross said, I felt I had the position and I wasn't going to lift because of the challenge of passing, because you're down on the apron.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had the position, and he went around off my nose by moving down on me. And so, Ross has been really straight up with it and felt he was. And And obviously Chase didn't like it. I mean, but Scott, I think what we're seeing here, I think what this is a product of is I think there's a little different code of racing now in the Cup Series, and I think Chase and Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick and guys like that are of the older guard that, I'm not, maybe I'll lift a little bit.
Steve Post, he is one of the main pit reporters for the Motor Racing Network, and he's a every Wednesday guest with Scott Traylor on Mostly Motorsports, and there's nobody that knows more about what's going on with NASCAR than the Postman.
No doubt about it. He's the lead pit reporter for them as well, and he does just a great job.
Knows a lot about sprint car racing, too.
What'd you think about that Ross Chastain and Elliott incident? What'd you think about that, Kurt?
I mean, I don't, he just got into him. I just made contact. Too bad for Chase. What do you think?
Well, I think that Ross Chastain probably left his nose in there. You know what? He's racing for the championship against that guy.
I mean, it's hard for me
to criticize. That guy comes across, Chase Elliott comes across his nose, and what do? You don't back out. I think they're
both racing for a championship,
right? But but let me ask you this: do you race somebody that's racing for the championship a little bit different than you do anybody else?
I think so. That's your competition out on the racetrack, isn't it?
Well, I feel like that Chase Elliott come across the nose of Ross Chastain a little bit, and I think Ross Chastain just decided to leave his nose in there, and whatever the consequences, whatever happens.
It was a racing deal, the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But I know there's different opinions than what I have about it, but
what do you think
that's
about
the way I saw it.
What do you think about Joey winning his second championship?
Yeah, they earned it. They won that race at Las Vegas here a few weeks back. Now, they'd only won 2 races during the regular season.
2 minutes.
They had won that race at St. Louis and then at Darlington a month before that.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming into the playoffs, they were as solid as anybody and winning at Las Vegas, then capping it off with that win at Phoenix. 4 wins, deserving championship, the way I see it.
Yeah. I want to give a little bit of a shout-out to some of the people that are listening around the country right now. Ricky's listening from East Texas. We've got Tammy listening in from Pennsylvania as well. We got people listening in Savannah, Georgia. We got Ricky listening down there as well. So a lot of people from around the country listening in this morning. Kelly from Central Point, Oregon, listening to the show. So we want to thank those people for listening in.
Hey, I just want to clarify the points for the NHRA drag racing. Justin Haley is 7 points behind. Just 7 points behind Brittany Force.
How about that?
Mike Salinas, 66 back, and Antron Brown, 78 back.
Yep.
Steve Torrance, 87 back. He's the reigning 4-time champion. And in Funny Car, we can't forget about Ron Capps, the defending champion. He's in the mix with Robert Height, who holds a 60-plus point lead now heading into the weekend.
All right, 7K Racing listening in from Minnesota as well. We want to thank everybody for tuning in.
30 seconds.
We've got hour number 2 coming up. You can watch it exclusively on our Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, and racerboys.com. And it's all brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. We want to thank
15.
Austin O'Neill, Todd Surprise, Blake back at Sports Radio 810 WHB, my partner Kirk Elliott. We'll see you right around the corner, hour number 2. All brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works.
Helzberg Diamonds presents The Guy Who Did His Homework. When it came to
job,
Jill's
boys.
engagement,
Hey, thanks,
Brady
Blake.
knew
Have a
exactly
good one.
what to get.
Yeah, y'all
Okay,
have a good
so
weekend.
I came
Go
up with a
Chiefs.
design and showed it to all of our friends.
She'll love it.
Then he went to Helzberg. Their incredible selection of high-quality, lab-grown, and natural diamonds made creating that special ring easy. Her reaction?
I love it! Can't wait to tell everybody.
At Lucas Oil, we take pride in creating problem-solving products to make your car care easier. We protect your vehicle and make it run longer so you can focus on the things that matter most. Whether it's commuting to work, visiting a loved one, taking the kids where they need to go, going to the big game, or anywhere life takes you, Lucas Oil is committed to getting you there for all of life's important moments. Lucas Oil, it works.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.
Here at Specialty Sportswear in-house, we do all of the screen printing, all the embroidery. We do some vinyl. The other add specialty items like your pens, magnets, notepads, calendars. You can actually buy that, build your business to make it larger. We have the largest screen printing process and the largest embroidery anywhere around in the area. We can do stuff all the way from your school clubs to sports teams, a professional look in the office. If you can imagine it, we can do it for you.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can cause decreased fuel economy and actually do harm to your engine over time. By adding Lucas Fuel Treatment to your vehicle, it cleans and lubricates the entire fuel system, pump, carburetors, fuel injectors, and valves as you drive. It also improves your vehicle's performance. It's a non-solvent product designed to protect both gasoline and diesel engines. Lucas Fuel Treatment. It works. There is less than 1/100th of an inch of motor oil protecting your car's engine. Friction and heat causes engine oil to experience thermal breakdown, weakening its ability to protect the engine and its parts. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer is specially formulated to resist thermal breakdown, protect vital engine parts, and extend the life of your engine. It also stops smoking, knocking, and oil consumption in worn engines. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer. Keep that engine alive.
Missouri's must play getaway. Osage National Golf Resort.
3 9-hole courses to choose from at the Lake of the Ozarks in the Osage River Valley. Stay and play packages in our first-class condos. A beautiful clubhouse complete with pro shop and exercise facilities. A large pool for relaxation and families. The Eagle View Sports Bar and Grill. Great wedding facilities. Go online and make your tee time today.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is open 7 days a week, year-round, for you to come in and check out all of the wonderful race cars on display in the museum, and our online store at sprintcarstuff.com is open 24 hours a day for you to check out everything that we have in stock for sprint car fans. Whether it's for a birthday, anniversary, or Christmas, sprintcarstuff.com has it all. That's at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.
Next to your vehicle's engine, your transmission is the most important component of your car. If it's not properly maintained, your car may not shift properly. By adding Lucas Transmission Fix to your transmission, it cleans and lubricates sticking valves for proper shifting, renews worn bands to stop slipping, stops seal leaks, will not void new car warranties, contains no harmful solvents. Lucas Transmission Fix. It works.
Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and if you're not listening to the Racing Boys, then you've got some sort of head problems. You got to listen to the Racing Boys. Get her done.
Welcome to Hour 2 of Track Talk on the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network. Brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. Made in America, sold to the world. Here again are the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome back to Track Talk here on RBN, the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network. I'm Scott. He's Kirk. We're the Racing Boys. Austin O'Neill, Todd Surprise helping us out here today in the studio. We appreciate those guys doing so much. Hey, Todd. So,
Yo.
me and you got to talk a little music here real quick.
Uh-huh.
How about John 5 joining Motley Crue, man? What do you think about that?
Money.
John 5, now he is maybe one of the better guitar players in the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is one of the extraordinary guitar players.
There's a lot of top-notch guitar players out there, but this guy,
he played with Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie's guitars.
Yeah.
He was Marilyn Manson's guitars. He wrote every famous hook that you heard in any of those guys' music. He was the guy that kind of wrote all those famous riffs, man.
So you don't think he made enough money working for those other guys?
Nah, I don't. I mean, I'm sure he's got money. Don't get me wrong. The dude, he lives in Vegas. He's got him a nice pad in California too. But joining a Motley Crue tour, this tour that the Crue did last year, that was the second most highly, it was the highest rock tour in the world last year. It's a huge money It's a huge money opportunity. So I wouldn't turn it down.
Do you think that they'll pay him equally?
No, but he'll get
a pretty good.
He'll get a good chunk because he's the only guitar player. It's not like it's a two-person guitar. You know what I'm saying? When you're the only guitar player holding down the fort as the guitar player.
So why is the guitar player from Motley Crue?
He's got a terrible disease. It's a disease where your bones they get concrete almost in them. You get rigid and all your bones stiffen up.
Yeah.
And the only thing that doesn't move, that keeps moving is his fingers. Everything else is almost stiffened up on this poor guy. He's 10 years older than anybody else in the band.
Right.
He's way older, maybe even older than that, probably 12 years older. He's had this disease for a long time. It's terribly painful for this poor guy to even play guitar, let alone run around. He doesn't run, even stand on the stage and play. So at this point, they've retired. They said they were done. They signed it in blood. Said they were never going to come back and play, but when they offer you millions and millions of dollars,
right.
It's really, as well as I do, it's hard to turn down that kind of scratch, man.
It's real money.
It's real money. But if nobody's ever seen John 5 play, he's a real good guitar player. He grew up on Hee Haw, like I did, watching Hee Haw. So he plays a Telecaster. It's a red, white, and blue, and kind of like Roy Clark and drawing a blank on the guy's name. It was on Hee Haw that played the Buck. What was his name? Kirk Buck. He'll come to me.
Owens.
Buck Owens. There you go. So he plays that red, white, and blue Stratocaster. He's a finger guitar style player. He can play. So
kind of like Richie Kotzen.
Exactly, a whole lot like it. So they're stepping up in game with the guitar player they're bringing on tour. So I think that tour next year is going to be really good because it's going to be revolving bands. Joan Jett and all them. It won't always be the same band. It's going to be Crue and Def Leppard, and then a cast of whoever they bring on
Poison
the
next.
Could be Poison this time, could be Tesla, whatever. But that tour made millions and millions last year. You just don't realize how much money they brought in. That's why they're keeping going. So
it's kind of crazy. When I sit there and I go through TikTok.
Yeah.
And
me and you both.
As you know, I send you a lot of these kids nowadays that play guitar
and drums
and drums. It's amazing because when we were young, little kids didn't play drums or guitar like that.
It's like, and it makes sense because when my son was young, he memorized he could tell you every dinosaur's name to things that I'd never heard of at age 4. So your brain's able to soak that crap in, man. And so give him a guitar, give your kid a bass, give him just like Austin here. This kid's been racing since he's been around. These kids,
his whole life,
they get absorbed into it so much earlier, and therefore all you're going to do is either make you better or let you know where you want to be in the rest of your life. If you want to do this, I mean, I'm like you, Scott. When you send me these videos, I'm almost just I watch about 5 minutes of it or a couple minutes, and I'm like, yep, that's another prodigy freak kid that's out there playing. But
Hey, what is that kid that's got the dreads that plays the guitar?
yeah,
What's his name?
Taj.
That kid can play.
I've been following him since he was a tiny kid, and he's a teenager, older teenager now. And he's really,
but man, he's been playing for a long
time.
Yeah.
Steve Vai will be here in town. If anybody is wanting to go see an extraordinary band, Uptown Theater, still tickets for the Steve Vai show coming up here November 20th, I think. So I'll be down there watching that. It's gonna be a great show, man. Talk about one of the best guitarists, Emmy award-winning guitar player. Been in a lot of stuff. Actually got new music out with kind of a rock and roll motorcycle vibe. So it was just out yesterday. So I'm riding Harley Davidsons and stuff. So definitely worth checking out. But yeah, me and Scott have been looking at some concerts because when race season stops, there's not much to do on a Friday and Saturday night.
It's time to
around
go
here.
to watch music.
And indoors, knuckleheads have moved indoors. It's just time to start watching some hometown music, guys. So we watch racing on TV and we go watch music on the weekends. But no, I appreciate you guys letting me pick your brain a little bit about music. But,
well, you know me, I'm all about the music. Kurt?
Hey, Todd.
Yes, sir.
Your thoughts about we lost one of the great comedians of all time, Gallagher.
It's how
about that, man?
And I was telling Kirk, people don't realize, and I didn't realize this until, he had a whole career before the watermelon deal. He was I didn't know it, and I went and looked at some of his stand-up. The reason why his whole watermelon shtick worked was because he had this great comedic, the way he did his lines and everything. So when he incorporated the visual part, it just put him over. In the 80s, as you know, visual was it, man. Everything was a visual. And when he came on, he was able to take his comedy and then also add a visual to it with smashing these. And if you listen to Carrot Top, Carrot Top was on one of the shows, on the show that comes on before our show, and Carrot Top said that he was his biggest influence, that he's known Gallagher since Carrot Top was 10 years old.
Really?
And the reason why the visual part of Carrot Top is because of Gallagher. He said, Gallagher is my biggest, he goes, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Gallagher. And yeah, watching his stand-ups on HBO back in the day, they were amazing, man. I mean, they were just if you were in the first 10 rows, dude, you had to wear a poncho because you were going to come home covered in watermelons and covered in whatever. I mean, he smashed everything.
He did.
I think he made me laugh more than any comedian I've ever seen.
But you know what people didn't really realize is that he retired in 2014.
He did. And he had a brother, too, that did his stick.
Did the same thing. And almost looked identical
No,
to him.
he did the same gig.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy that kind of did his thing that looked like it, too. But no, Gallagher actually, people don't, he's been in hospital. He had some heart problems major heart problems the last few years, but he'd been in hospice for a while. But he had a tour scheduled right up until his last major heart issue. So, I mean, it was like he was still pounding watermelons up until the day he said, I'm done pounding watermelons.
Yeah, he was the original smashing watermelons.
Oh, yeah, before Ross Chastain.
Ross Chastain had to learn from Gallagher how to smash a watermelon.
If any of you young guys go out there and just pull up an old Gallagher stand-up HBO special or Showtime special, just watch that, and just the people that are in the front row that have never seen a Gallagher concert, you can tell because they're not wearing
They don't have the plastic.
They don't have the plastic on yet, and they're going to be in for a surprise, man.
Yeah, the veterans are all ready for it.
They're ready.
They know what's coming.
All of his fans are ready for it, man.
I want to tell you what Pete said here on the chat room. He said Brian Carter of World Racing Group does not want a high-limit race in the same area as the World of Outlaw race during the same pay period for fans. As long as High Limit needs heals that request, Carter will allow World of Outlaw drivers to compete.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I can understand where Brian Carter's coming from. They schedule a World of Outlaws event. They don't want to have anything take away from the promotion of the event in that area or take crowds away from what they're trying to put on. I get it.
Yeah, no doubt. Tim says it's snowing up in Iowa City, Kurt. Todd, you said it was snowing out in front, right? When you went out there just a minute ago, it was snowing?
Teeny tiny little specks, but I was like, what's on my car? And there's a little white drop. I mean, not like snowflakes, but snow spit, out there. So, yes.
I am not ready for winter.
No,
I'm not ready
either.
for winter. Are you ready for it, Kurt?
Never ready for it.
It was 81. I was down by Lucas Oil Speedway on Wednesday afternoon working at my dad's place down there.
Yeah.
10 minutes from Lucas Oil Speedway. 81 degrees on Wednesday.
Crazy.
I was sweating so bad. I mean, it was 81, and today it's 30 degrees down there, and here it's in 20. So
it doesn't sound like the warm weather's coming back anytime soon.
You're getting your dad's house ready to sell, right?
yeah, he's got a lake house down there, and if anybody that lives down by Lucas Oil is looking for a house or
get a hold of you.
Man, we're going to have this bad. But like I said, the house is in a little rough shape, but the property across the street, if you're needing a race car driver's dream, because the shop is an amazing shop.
How far from the racetrack?
It's 20 minutes, Kirk. It's literally, I timed it. It's 18 minutes from the front door of my dad's place.
Which direction
to the
from Lucas Oil?
Which would be, it's just, you keep going. So
south?
Yeah, south. So from our direction, like if you're Lucas Oil's on the right-hand side, you keep going 20 minutes, and it's right there off of 287. It's literally right by Palm de Terre Lake. And
I know where 287
is
at.
It's right there. But no, if I had the money, my friend, and my dad didn't need as much money as he's going to need to be able to take care of himself for the rest of his life, me and my brother would buy it in a heartbeat. So, yeah, I tried to get a hold of, who was the old general manager at Lucas Oil? Dan Robinson. I was going to call Dan and say, hey, if you know any of your guys down there that are looking for a pad,
Dan's no longer there, though.
I know Dan. We talked.
Danny Lorton.
Danny Lorton.
Danny
That's
Lorton's
the one.
there.
That's right. So, but anyway, I was just down there with. I drove right by the facility. Let me tell you something. That facility, you're getting ready. It feels like you're pulling up to a Worlds of Fun or a Kansas Speedway. When you drive up by Lucas Oil Speedway, everything is just so nice and manicured, and you're out there in the middle of nowhere,
guys. They do a great job down
but
there.
Something's coming up by the way it looks. I mean, it just looks premier out there.
The diamond
guys.
of dirt tracks.
It really is. Like my brother, like he said, he goes, I can't believe how nice this place looks 365 days a year. You know what I mean? It can be winter, and yet it still looks like a very nice facility. So I agree. Very, very cool place out there, man.
Wow. Hey, did you see this, Austin? I don't know if Pete just chimed in. He said Roth Motorsports 83 to run Toyota engines in 2023. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's been out for quite some time now.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
It'll be a good development car to go put it on.
Is McFadden going to still be in that car next year?
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I heard talk about that here a few weeks back.
Yeah.
About Toyota. That's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. So what are your thoughts about Brad Sweet salting away his 4th straight championship? Donnie Schatz had a great weekend last weekend.
Yeah, went back-to-back down at the World Finals.
It was kind of crazy. I mean, Donnie started off the season. He won down there in Florida, and then he won the Knoxville Nationals. Then he didn't win again until the last weekend of the season.
Here's a good one right here. Pretty disappointed in the early schedules that the World of Outlaw Late Model Series and the Lucas Oil Late Model Series are not running I-70 Speedway.
Stay tuned for I-70 Speedway. I talked to Casey up at Casey Schumann, who's new general manager at I-70 Speedway. Chatted with him a little bit up at US 36 Raceway.
Does he think that they're going to get a race?
He said, yeah, we're working on some things. So, we're just getting in there. He's not fully there yet. I suppose he is now that the World of Outlaw season's over. He's working on it a little bit, but he's just getting started. So stay tuned. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what the events say. They're going to schedule. He tells me that it's going to be all big events that they're going to schedule at I-70, and how many they're going to get put together. remains to be seen, but the plan is to run, maybe once a month or maybe even sometimes twice a month.
Yeah.
6 or 8 events out at I-70, but they're going to be big events. We'll just have to wait and see what they put together. My guess is he's still going to have somewhat of a relationship with the World Racing Group, even after he gets started with the
well, if there's
I-70
anybody that
Motorsports. So I think if anybody's going to be able to pull the Outlaws back in, it's Casey Schumann.
Yeah, no
so
doubt.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I hope so. They need the World of Outlaws out there.
Well, they need the sprint cars out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a great facility they built out there with a huge grandstand. So they're going to have to put some big events together to really make that work.
Yeah.
And promote the hell out of them, too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Which they really didn't do a very good job self-promotion out there over the last year or two. But how about Tommy Estes, now the new competition director with USAC?
I think that was a great hire right there.
Yeah.
Perfect hire. Tommy would do good because he treats everybody the same. That's one good thing about Tommy
I think
Estes.
he will do good in that role.
Yeah, no
That's
doubt.
a very political role, but Tommy knows all about what that's all about. But if there's anybody who could come in and do a lot of what Levi Jones did, they didn't have that this last year because Levi wasn't there this year. Tommy Estes can come in and stabilize all that people were used to when Levi Jones was around. That's my take on it all.
Hey, Austin, David Frog said that Haas put their car on the pole. Is that true?
That is true.
Wow. That is a big story, isn't it, in Formula One?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So where do they normally qualify, the Haas team?
Oh, they're
back,
usually, Kevin Magnussen, who is on the pole, he is, the better out of the two compared to teammate Mick Schumacher. So Mick is usually 15th to 20th car. Kevin is anywhere from... They started the year off really well. They were both cars from the top 10 at the start of the year. They've kind of faded throughout the summer months, but Kevin can still strike up some pace and put it, under the top 15 mark. So anywhere from like 12th to 20th is where they usually lay. But Kevin usually outperforms Mick Schumacher.
How'd they end up on the pole? Where did they find the extra speed?
Well, it was actually it was drama with the weather in Brazil right now. So they start off the first qualifying session with all 20 cars, and the 5 slowest cars, are eliminated, and it's kind of like NASCAR old knockout qualifying. And they had weather in the area, and the track kind of started damp in the first round, and all teams went out there on intermediate tires, which is half slick. It's the in between.
Got a little tread on it.
It's in between a slick and a full wet.
Mm-hmm.
And all 20 cars in the first 10 minutes it's a 20-minute session. All the first 10 minutes they were able to go out there and burn a dry groove in, and Peter Gasly was the first car to put a soft tire on a soft slick, and went out there and in his third lap got tires up to temp, and laid down I think a lap maybe a half a second faster than the quickest car intermediate. So it forced all the teams in there to put on softs, and at the end of that, the last minute was really exciting as teams were getting a good final push lap, and cars were going from 20th to outside the transfer to in the transfer and outside of it, and they lost Mick Schumacher in the last 5 spots, but Kevin was the last car to get out of it. He was on the verge of not making Q2, and Q2 was a little calmer, it was a little drier, and he was able to make Q3, and there was rain in the area ready to hit the track just about halfway through Q3, which had the final 10 cars on the track, and Kevin was the last car to cross the line on soft tires and went quick time. And they had George Russell caught the paint on the exit of, I think, maybe turn 4, turn 5, and he ended up beaching his car in the sand pit.
Oh.
And it red flagged the session, And at that point, Kevin just crossed the line and went quick time ahead of Max Verstappen, and George Russell was third, and the rain came. And at that point, the rain came, kind of dampened the track up. Everybody was forced to intermediates. Nobody was going to beat the time on the softs, and Kevin Magnussen and Haas is on their first pole.
Let me ask you this. Is there a chance that they could get run over at the start of this race?
We're not that slow. So today is going to be, I believe it's today. I'll look at I have an app on my phone that has all the start times, and they run these sprint races. It's like, it's not half, it's like quarter distance, I believe is what it is, of the full race. And it just sets the lineup up for Sunday. So not the weekend you want to be quick time like them. I think they would rather be quick time when they can just go to Sunday and run the race. But they'll have to get through a sprint race first. But they'll probably fade here. I don't think there'll be a threat of being crashed in the first couple laps because they all can race, and when the field's level, they have the same amount of speed as everybody else. So I don't know what the weather's going to look like, in the sprint race. I haven't checked what's going on down there, but I mean, if it stays kind of wet and damp, they have a shot at a top 5, or even winning the sprint race and putting themselves in a great position on Sunday.
So Haas with Kevin Magnussen number 1 and his teammate Mick Schumacher last at 20.
Yeah, that's not not a good look. I don't know what Mick's future looks like in this sport. It's not looking good. Oh, I can say that for sure. He hasn't signed any contracts, heading into next year, and there's only, I believe, 1 or 2 open seats, left in F1 for.
Let's get an American-born driver in there.
Well, that's the issue. Is all the American guys have, I don't. There's not a lot in the Formula ladder, like in Formula, Fords, 3s, and 2, then up to F1. And the issue is you have to have a certain license, and it's called a super license, and you have to earn a certain amount of points. And what they're doing is, we see it with Williams right now. They're trying to get Logan Sargent into practice sessions where he can earn super license points in those sessions. So instead of running up through the ladder and being in Europe your entire career and earning that license, and when a seat opens up, you're right on the grid, and it doesn't allow guys that are IndyCar standouts or NASCAR standouts to just walk in and buy a seat. So it makes it really difficult for our American drivers to have a chance to race with them. But drivers have been working with the FIA to make the system a little more easier and a little more open to Americans that want to be involved in the sport.
Is there one driver in IndyCar that could make it in Formula One?
Colton Herta.
He's the only one, Colton Herta?
I believe so. I mean, he is.
How about Joseph Newgarden? Somebody like that.
So Joseph actually, he was on the Dale Jr. download, I believe, at the start of this year, and he talked that he wanted to go that route, and it takes so much money and so much investment that I think they pretty much ran out of money.
Will Power, isn't he an American?
He's Australian.
Oh, he's Australian. That's right.
You're gonna want a younger guy that's gonna have some time left in it to adjust and prove themselves, and I think Colton Herta would be the best young guy. I'm trying to think of the other guys.
How about Kyle Larson?
Kyle would.
Do you think he'd do all right in Formula One?
Well, I think he could.
You'd have to give him some time, though, wouldn't you?
That's like anybody else. You need laps. I'm trying to think of the guy that drives for McLaren, and IndyCar that would be a good fit. I can see his Pato O'Ward. That's who that is. He'd be a good fit.
Is he an American? Pato O'Ward? I don't know. I don't
think so. That name doesn't sound American to me. I
saw him win a race up at Iowa Speedway back in July. Well, anyway, it's that's pretty interesting qualifying results right there.
Kirk, I had a chance to talk to Scott Delosio earlier this week.
Voice of Paris Auto Speedway.
Yeah, he is the voice of Paris Auto Speedway. Good guy, too, by the way. And we talked about the future of Paris Auto Speedway, and you know, the land out there is becoming very valuable right now. And we talked in great length with him about that.
And he delivered some good news. Let's hear a little bit of that conversation from earlier this week on Mostly Motorsports with Scott Delosio.
Let's talk a little bit about, I hate to bring this up, but the future of Paris Auto Speedway, where are we at right now? I know that you had Save Paris up there. They had the big banner up there, the hashtag Save Paris. Where are we at right now on the future of Paris Auto Speedway?
Well, I think a lot of people are confused on what has been going on. You know, when we say Save Paris Auto Speedway, the deal is, I don't know if you're familiar with the lay of the land out there.
Yep.
You've been to the racetrack before. There's
Yes.
that massive dam right behind the racetrack.
Yep.
That is one of the largest watersheds in the state of California. Well, about 9 years ago, they decided to retrofit that dam. Okay, everything is fine. Well, now they're throwing some other work at the dam. That work is not going to affect the racetrack physically itself. That's not what the issue is. The issue is the way they're going to do the work, and it's coming very close to the racetrack. It actually is going to take a part of the fairgrounds. The way they're going to do the work is going to make it an inconvenience or a hardship for people who come to the races or for any other thing that goes on in the fairgrounds because of traffic. You know, they're basically building bridges where our two main entrances are, and there'll only be one entrance into the fairgrounds while that is going on. Well, when it's a law anywhere in the country, when you inconvenience a business, you have to compensate that business. So as hard as the promoter of the racetrack, there's a Mexican concert promoter there. They've joined forces with the concessionaire because they wanted to know how they're going to be compensated while this was going on. Well, the state, the DWR, Department of Water Resources, basically ignored them and left them no option but to file a lawsuit. That was filed, I want to say it was filed, it was either December of last year, December 2020. I think it was last year. The state has tried to get that lawsuit thrown out 4 times. And every single time the judge has rejected their request. They are out of request to do that. So the promoter, you know, they just want to be compensated fairly for, you know, they're going to lose revenue because it's going to be hard to get in and out of the racetrack.
Yeah, no doubt.
They want to be compensated fairly for what is going on with that. And, you know, the hope is that can be settled before the end of this year. That would alleviate just a lot of pain. I mean, the bottom line is where people, the confusion think the racetrack is going to be torn down because of it. There's not going to be any more racing. The promoter, Don Kazarian, every time emphatically states to the fans, he talks to the fans almost every race. And as he stated in social media, the racetrack is not going anywhere. It is not going to close.
Well, why did the judge decide 3 times not to work?
4 times.
4 times. Well, tell me a little bit about that. Why did the judge rule in that way?
What went on? I think the reason is because they are failing to compensate. That's a law, and by not compensating or offering the compensation to the parties in the lawsuit, in essence, they're breaking the law.
Yeah.
I mean, this is California. I mean, anything can happen. You know, anything crazy can happen, but the judge sees it in the right eyes when he's looking at that.
And is that lake called Lake Paris?
Yeah, it's Lake Paris. Was built in 1973. One of the best bass lakes. It's a man-made lake. It is one of the best bass fishing lakes on the West Coast, and it is one of the biggest watersheds, if not the biggest in California. I don't think it is the biggest, but one of the biggest. last year we've been through a drought, which we're way ahead on rainfall this year, fortunately, right now. Most lakes are way down. Last year, that lake was at 110% capacity.
Right.
So it is a massive watershed. And what they're doing with the lake and the dam, the promoter, the concessionaire, the Mexican concert promoter, they're fully on board with what they're doing. I mean, if that dam were to break, it would be a huge, massive problem. So they're fully on board with what they're doing. They just want to be treated fairly.
Well, the good news there is it sounds like Paris Auto Speedway is going to be around for a while. They signed a 20-year lease a couple years ago, so they've got 18 years left on that lease. Optimistic that racetrack's going to be around a little bit. What do you think?
That's the best news we've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
That, the Paris Auto Speedway is going to be around.
Yeah, no doubt.
That would be a huge loss to the country, with that major presence in Southern California, to something happen to that racetrack.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure, Kirk, that racetrack's going to be around for the next 20 years, because they can always go in there and offer them enough money to buy them out, right?
Well, the thing that helps it out with a lot of these racetracks is their fairgrounds facilities, which I think secures the future of a lot of these racetracks, just in the sheer politics of it all. And you'd think just the opposite would be true, because we've seen racetracks being taken out of fairgrounds facilities, like the Iowa State Fairgrounds in Des Moines and Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
You'd think be the opposite, but the way things are in California, that probably will do more to save racetracks by having a lot of these as part of fairgrounds facilities.
That was a big loss when we lost the Oklahoma City fairground
huge
track.
Loss. That was a huge loss. We lost the big half-mile track in Des Moines.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that won't happen to Sedalia, because we hear rumors that they might shut that racetrack down.
I am not sure about that.
Yeah.
I was down there for the fair race back in August, and just talking with some people down there, I'm less certain about the future of that racetrack than I've ever been at Sedalia, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No doubt. They just don't use it enough. Kirk, could Sedalia make it as a weekly track? Do you think it could make it?
Do. Mm-hmm. It's so hard for a promoter to go in there and make a go of it, because they don't get any of the concessions.
Right. Yeah.
It's not real friendly to a promoter going in there and try to make money at it.
Yeah.
And we've seen only one person be successful at Sedalia, at the Missouri State Fair Speedway, and that is Bob Baker. He was the one guy to go in there and really make that work.
I think David Goodson did all right down there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Remember when David Goodson ran that?
Yeah, he did. And the thing about David Goodson is he knew all the players down in Sedalia. He was a part of the business community down there, so that helped him out. Mm-hmm. But I'm just speaking in terms of what Bob Baker was able to accomplish down there at the time he was there. It was just hard for anybody to go in there and match what he did.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Kirk, also this week on Mostly Motorsports, we had a chance to talk to Jason Reed, who is the new general manager up at Knoxville Raceway. And I'm optimistic that Jason is going to do a good job up there. How about you?
Yeah, it's that's the second time you've had him on since his announcement as the new GM at Knoxville Raceway. And, yeah, he's going to do a great job because he's been there for so many years and knows how everything works before he even took the job.
He has the relationship with the fair board.
Yeah. Yeah, he understands everything that goes on up there.
And Cappy endorsed him as well.
He did.
Right.
He back in the day, he said, you ought to get more involved. You know, when Jason, and he started out,
as a volunteer.
Being kind of the gopher
he was
type
a volunteer
guy. Volunteer and worked himself up, from the bottom. when Cappy was still around, he had his eye on Jason Reed back then. Well, anyway, here's a little portion of the conversation, some exciting things brewing up at Knoxville Raceway, and here's part of that conversation with Jason Reed on Mostly Motorsports.
How's it been going up there so far with you as the new general manager? Has things been going pretty good?
Yeah, it's been going really good. I've reaching out to a lot of our partners, trying to get things going for next year. We're working on some ticket details, some ticket deals for next year also, and then just working on selling the national tickets. So yeah, everything. The first month has been awesome.
I don't know if you can comment on it, but we had Bob Baker on yesterday, and the rumor has it that on June 2nd and 3rd, the USAC non-wing sprint cars are going to be coming back to Knoxville Raceway. Can you comment on that at all?
Well, I cannot confirm, but I can say that it's really close to being, I can't say for sure it's going to happen, but we're really close. So
yeah,
we're working on that.
That's a big deal to bring back the traditional sprint cars back to Knoxville, isn't it?
Yeah. We always have a lot of people asking, Ken, is there any way you can get a non-wing race back? And so then we kind of started looking at it and talked with them, and saying, maybe we can try this again and see if we can make it happen. And then we're talking about just doing it on Saturday night. And then we're like, man, if we're going to do it, let's make a weekend out of it and get them over for 2 nights. So yeah, that's kind of where we're leaning to now. Like I said, it's not 100% done yet, but it's getting really close. So.
Yeah. I believe the season opener is going to be on April 15th. That's it's kind of tricky at that time of the year, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the weather. It can be kind of a crapshoot on what you're going to get there. Because we actually, thought about waiting another week starting off. Then we had the Outlaw Show for that weekend. So we thought, man, maybe we better try to run the weekend before just to make sure, coming out of winter, everything's working like it's supposed to and operational. So we're gonna, weather pending, we're gonna give her a shot there on the 15th.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's a few other things that are in this press release, and maybe we ought to kind of shout out there. I think you're taking bids for cleaning services up there as well, right?
Yep. Yes, we are. We got, we kind of got the mowing, snow pushing, and the grandstand cleaning all together. We got about 3 different contractors that we work with to try to keep this whole place clean. So yeah, we've got those going on right now. Yes.
Yeah. Talk about this Dennison Racing Tees pop-up store that's going to take place as well.
Okay, yeah, Deb Dennison she handles all of our T-shirt sales and stuff here for the track and keeps us stocked up for that. She has a couple pop-up sale, or was having one pop-up sale weekend this year where, people can, if they want some Christmas gifts or just want some other new shirts or something that they didn't get bought this summer, that she has those available for sale. And that always seems to, she did that a few years ago and it seemed to go really well. So we're going to do it again this year, just giving people a chance to get some shirts for themselves or presents for someone else for the holidays or something.
This is very interesting to me. The Knoxville Racing History book that is going to be for sale for $40. Talk about that book and the details of that book.
Yeah, that's put together by Bob Wilson and Eric Arnold. Bob was the track historian here for a long time, and he covers the earlier years, and Eric Arnold, he kind of is taking over that position now at Knoxville. So he's got the more recent years here, the information there, and those guys, they work together, putting together a book, getting it published and getting it for sale. So yeah, they've been working on that. They've about got it ready to roll, and so those will be going on sale too. And just good history telling of different events that happened here at Knoxville, and a lot of interesting facts in there.
Yeah, no doubt. I got to give a little bit of a shout out to John McCoy. He's going to get the Ted Johnson Award. Talk about that a little bit and what that award means to people.
Yeah, that's John. He's I'd say he's very deserving of that job or that award. That guy, he's always looking out for the well-being of the racer, the racetrack, and the fans. He's always trying to say, well, if we don't do this, what does that jeopardize? Does that, like with the tethers, a lot of people weren't wanting to tether. John's like, man, I don't want to see nothing fly in the stands, hit somebody. So yeah, he's a big driver of making the sport good for everybody. Well deserved. He puts his heart and soul into making sprint car racing better. So I was glad I was be able to see there, get him that award. I was actually in Charlotte when he got that. Well deserved.
Yeah, no doubt. If people want to purchase their 4-day Knoxville National tickets, they can do so at 641-842-5431. Again, that's 641-842-5431. And then the tickets go on sale to the general public on December 1st, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep, if you didn't have a previous 4-day package already, but you want one now, they go on sale December 1st.
Yeah.
I can't wait till that final announcement is made, and it's coming for the non-wing weekend.
June 2nd and 3rd.
Same weekend as the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a great weekend.
Yeah. It's great to see the non-traditional, non-wing sprint cars get back up there and race.
Absolutely. We've missed them the last couple of years. One year they just got rained out, and the year that they did have it was during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't bring them back last year, which I was disappointed to see, but glad to see them back.
Right. I'm over there on YouTube, and Frank, he chimed in. He said Brian Carter's interview with Postman and Aaron Crocker the other day shed a little light on things. As a former business owner, I agree with Brian Carter on the exclusivity mindset to protect his product. What do you think?
Yeah, as we talked about a little bit earlier, I get where Brian Carter's coming from. He didn't want to see another high-paying event scheduled just down the road from where they're trying to make a World of Outlaws event work. Not fair to the promoters that have these events for the World of Outlaws, and if you stage another high-dollar event not too far down the road, even though it's in the middle of the week, it does affect the crowds that you might have come in. And the economy situation where we're at today, more and more people are picking and choosing of what events that they're going to go to because it costs a lot of money to do this stuff. And it's great for the racers. I don't think anybody's bringing that into the equation. Anytime you get more opportunities for the racers to make money, that's great. But you also got to put fannies in the stands, too, and you start oversaturating certain markets with big dollar events that cost a lot of money to get in. The fans are going to pick and choose where they want to go.
You know, that's one thing that I think I-70 needs to do a little better job of, and maybe even Lakeside Speedway, for that matter. I think that they need to advertise a little bit more on television. What do you think?
Well, it takes an all-hands-on-deck approach, not just television advertising.
Create awareness, though.
Yeah, you just got to let people know the events are there. I just got the feeling this year at I-70 Speedway that a lot of people didn't know some of those events were going on.
No, I agree with you.
I mean, you can tell the buzz of a big event just by the sheer nature of people talking about it, knowing about it, whether the more exposure on the social networks, TV, or whatever, it's got to be an all-in approach. But the big thing is you want people to know that the event is going on and well enough in advance to where they can make plans to be there. And I just felt that at I-70 Speedway, for all the events that they had out there, that not a lot of people knew that they were going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had questions, okay, what's going on with I-70 Speedway now? We know it's a brand new racetrack, but seems like there's a lot of changes still happening out there. Is it still on? I had a lot of people asking me, is I-70 back open again this year? What's going on out there? Nobody really knew what was going on. And I think Casey Schumann will fix a lot of that.
What do you think the drag racing fans are more frustrated right now than anybody? Because they want a new track.
Yeah.
They've worked on the racetrack out there. They've leveled off the land, but they really haven't done much work.
They haven't started it yet.
They really
So
haven't.
what's happening with that? Nobody really knows what the update is with the drag strip out there. So my personal feeling is I think Casey Schumann will come in and fix a lot of those kinds of situations and do a little bit better job of letting people know what's going on.
Kirk, do you ever think that we will have a NHRA Nationals at at I-70 Speedway?
I doubt it. Wasn't the whole issue
about nitro cars? They didn't want to run nitro cars.
Yeah, wasn't the whole issue around noise and traffic and all that kind of stuff?
But they've bought a lot of the land around that racetrack right now. They did. And
I think Chris Payne has told the folks over at Topeka, if you don't play ball with me, I'll just take my deal and go. I've got another racetrack over here. He never really come out and said that in those words, but the implication was there that, hey, I can go elsewhere with this event. Now, whether that would happen or not, I don't know. He's still in a battle with the officials over in Kansas over property taxes and so forth. That hasn't gone away.
Right.
So what is the future there? And with the additional property that's been purchased over in Odessa, could that be a host of a national event someday? I don't know, but what we do know is, and you attended the meetings just like I did.
Right.
There was no, we're not going to bring in the big nitro cars here.
Not only did we go to the meetings, but we broadcasted the meetings.
But part of the questions from local people is, and they promised, we're not bringing in the nitro cars here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to be a site for a national event. They said that.
Well, depending on the neighbors they bought out, though.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Yeah. If they bought out most of the neighbors around the racetrack and they bought all the land, then I don't think that's going to be as big an issue.
But they had to purchase the additional land to even think about hosting a NHRA national event there someday.
Frog chimed in. He said that's what happened to the ASCS show this last year. He said, I sat in the stands at I-70 and people were calling friends and telling them that they were there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's not
well,
good.
Frog knows.
Yeah.
He was out there, and I think he would agree with us. That, you just get the feeling, I think this is a big secret. I don't think a lot of people know this is going on.
Right. John Wilson, a former crew chief of mine back in the day, won a lot of races together. He said that is the case with all the area tracks. Kirk, we need to get a section in the Kansas City Star to where it has the results for all the area racetracks.
How many people still read the Kansas City Star?
I don't know, but I know when we were kids, every week I waited for National Speed Sport News and the Hawkeye Racing News to come in so I could read what happened at the area tracks outside of the Kansas City area. How about you?
Sure. But
did you read the Hawkeye Downs? What papers did you get?
Hawkeye Racing News, Speed
Hawkeye
Sport
Racing
News.
Yeah.
But that's back in the days when that's the only way you could get information was the newspapers. I mean, we're living in a different world today, and I just get the feeling, Scott, that some of the crowds that we saw at some of the local events here in Kansas City, I feel like they aren't listening to us because we've been talking about those events, but a lot of people, I just get the feeling that a lot of people didn't hear what we were saying, that a lot of those events were going on.
Well, you know what's more frustrating to me than anything? The only time any local news people go out to the racetrack is when they have a terrible accident out there.
Something bad happens.
Something bad happens.
And there's been some rare exceptions to that. We've seen some coverage. There's been some good TV news stories that are put together on occasion about a local racer.
Or when the racetrack floods.
Yeah. But there has been an instance or two of some positive coverage out there, but it's not very often.
Yeah.
Not very often at all.
Yeah,
but,
Rob Collins from Channel 4, the head sports guy, that when he came to town,
he tried a little bit.
He did, and he would go to Lakeside Speedway, get himself. He got the suite. Him and his buddies would be up there in the suite. He would do a little broadcast,
a little package.
But I think he got pushback from people from above saying we don't have time to talk about that. We need to talk about the Chiefs or need to talk about the Royals. And you know as well as I do, that's how it gets pushed out. It's a pushed to the back page, pushed off, but he tried, that guy. And then the 41 people were out there because the girl, who was the girl they interviewed a local race car, not a local, they interviewed a lady that was in town, and they filmed a whole video of her out there at Lakeside Speedway, and Channel 41 did an interview with her because it was a different, a female driver in a male sport.
It was a BMA driver, wasn't
it? I believe so.
Yeah, that's one of the stories that I was talking about earlier.
That's why I remember that when Kirk said that. I remembered that was this last year. But that, like I said, Rob Collins, he tried his best. He really, I saw him at Lakeside more than anybody with any of the media in Kansas City of my whole time ever at Lakeside Speedy. I bet I saw him there at least twice a year, every year. So that's more than, but he told me he lived in Texas. He grew up around racetracks his whole life.
So it was in his blood.
In his blood. So when he came up here, he asked the first thing, where's there a close dirt track at? And they told him I-35. They told him this. They told him, hey, there's Lakeside Speedway. And he found out where it was at. And he's like, you know what? That's where I'm going to go. And like I said, I picked his brain, and I asked him why it doesn't get done. And it's time. The weather gets more time on TV news than anything. Then when you get the headline news out of the way, well, then once you get to the sports, if you've got a team like the Chiefs or the Royals that are doing well, you're not going to get anything else squeezed in your little sports package. It's just, all I do, man. The big stuff is the stuff they run, and that's how it works.
It was funny. I used to always buy the Kansas City Star every day. Every day I bought it.
It was in the back. And like you said, there was more time and more people to be able to do that stuff. Those people aren't being paid. There's none of that no more. Not even digital.
I felt like Kansas Speedway was hurt by the lack of attention with the local media.
I agree.
The events out there, not enough buzz was created weeks and months in advance of these two events that we have here in Kansas City, and the media can play a large role of how big a crowd you get. If you go to a place like Nashville or some other locations where they're all in and NASCAR is the biggest deal in town, look at the packed house that they had at Nashville Super Speedway this year. A lot of that is attributed to the local Nashville news media creating a big buzz for that event.
Right.
And I just feel like here in the Kansas City area, we're not getting the coverage of the local media or even talking about these big events, and I think the crowds have suffered out here
I think
because of it.
The number one issue besides it's gotten to be, we know it's there, and it is what it is. But the number one issue with the lower crowds at the Kansas Speedway is the Chiefs have been winning in the last how many years?
Chiefs have dominated.
So
sports.
when the Royals, it's a different time of the year, right? So you're not going to have any spillover people. The Chiefs are a huge thumbprint on this town, and I told Kirk I was worried about that last race because of the time it was going up against, and you knew as well as I do people were going to be at home watching the Chiefs game that day and not out watching the race.
My biggest problem is that I hate to say this, but our own radio station doesn't cover any of it.
That's true. Yeah,
none of them do.
I mean,
nobody does.
They don't even talk.
Johnny Dare's the only one in town
that talks about
that
Kansas
talk racing.
Speedway.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, when we first started, when the track first opened,
there was a lot of media.
There was an all-in approach. We were doing remotes and doing
live
hits all week long leading up to the race. None of that's happened for many years now.
Yeah, Johnny even talked to us, me and you, about it. Me and Johnny Dare show and Track Talk are the only two shows in Kansas City
that talk
motorsports, and they're the only two that talk the Kansas Speedway that talk about it on a regular basis when it isn't the weekend for it. So
to be honest with you, it's almost embarrassing for me to work at a radio station that not one of the shows talk about the Kansas Speedway.
And both of us were available to come on whatever show needed. Nobody called.
Yeah, it's just strange. Like you said, I know the Chiefs is a big footprint, but you've got to still cater to. There's enough media people that you can still get.
They get 30,000, 40,000 people out there. Why doesn't it get the attention? Why doesn't it, Kurt?
Because they don't care about NASCAR. They don't follow it. They don't like it. They never grew up around it.
It's cars going around circles, right?
It's just not a big deal to them.
And it's become it's been there for so long in Kansas City with the two races. They've almost just kind of.
I don't think they appreciate what they have.
That's what I was going to say. The appreciation isn't up where it was when they first came out here.
Here's another example. St. Louis had their first NASCAR race.
And they got all in.
It was packed, and the local media in St. Louis was all in
over
on the pre-race lead up to that event, the coverage of that event. They were all in. Here in Kansas City, no. Because I think we've been here long enough now that they've taken it for granted.
But, Kirk, back in the early days of Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It wasn't that way. Yeah, when we first started.
When we first started at 810, we did 9 races live on 810, didn't we?
Yeah.
I used to listen to you guys all the time. I mean, before I worked with you guys, the last 5 years before.
But in the lead up to those first NASCAR races, the whole station, the whole town was all in.
Yeah.
Hey, this is cool. They've got NASCAR coming to Kansas City. Now it's like, oh, ho-hum.
Even by the time I started working with you, which is 11 years ago out there at Kansas Speedway, when you would walk into that media center, it was every Channel 4, Channel 5, packed. Channel 9 had a representative, and their spouse was always with them, and a cameraman and a sound guy.
Right.
It was packed. The place was packed. Now when you got there, you see poor Neil Jones.
He's the only guy that
he's out there chugging his camera by, and he wasn't out there this last time because he was out of town.
He was out there in the spring.
That's right.
Yeah. But I saw one gal that works for Channel 41.
Channel 41.
She was the only one that I saw out there Sunday at the Cup race.
The blonde.
All the other media that were in the deadline room were all from out of town, except for us.
Yeah.
And then Saturday at the Xfinity race, they had a local. The lady who does the Channel 41 during the 5 or 6 o'clock, she's the main, the African American lady that's got the curly hair. She's really nice. I talked to her whole family while we were there, and she was the flag. I don't know if she did the flag or the pace car or something. So that's
honorary flag tour.
So that's why she was there. I mean, so it wasn't even.
I will say this: when Kevin Kiesman was over at Sports Radio 8,
he was great.
Yeah, he had us on every Friday.
Every Friday,
yes.
No matter what.
John brought that up. And we talked motorsports every Friday.
And I know we had our battles with Kevin, but I'll say this about him.
At least he talked about it.
He covered it.
Yeah.
And he
did a great job.
He understood what it meant to Kansas City.
But Kevin always had off-the-wall
He
ideas,
did,
man.
but he knew having two guys
But I appreciate him giving us the opportunity to come on his show and talk about it every week. Good for him.
And to know that to bring two guys that knew what they were talking about, that's what I appreciated. It wasn't just having two guys that kind of follow NASCAR.
Right.
Two guys that knew what they were talking about. And I mean, like you said, your show is built in. Here's my thought. They kind of take you guys for granted as well, kind of like how NASCAR is. Our show, Track Talk, it's been around, like you said, 24 years.
24 years.
It's an afterthought because it's always on.
I think they've lost the feeling of how special it is to have NASCAR, not one, but 2 weekends a year in this town. I think they take that for granted and have lost the feeling of how special that is.
The people
to have
out
that happen in this
in Wyandotte County and the Legends area, they are not lost on what it means to have 2 NASCAR weekends. Trust me, the people, the money that comes in to that area for those 2 weekends, they're more than grateful. But you know as well as I do, NASCAR doesn't do nearly what they used to do in the past. Every grocery store, every Menards, every auto parts store always had a car out front letting you come and take pictures of it. There was a trailer in earlier in the week. That doesn't happen as much anymore.
No.
You don't see the promotion from these track. Tony Stewart always had a car up at.
Well, part of it is
the have those high dollar sponsors.
Hold on. If the racetrack would spend a little money at some of these radio stations, maybe they'd get their coverage, right?
Maybe they would.
They would, because it's more than just getting your ads put on the air.
Yeah.
If you come and spend money at entity, a radio station, it costs a lot of money to put ads on the air, but you're going to get a lot of other stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah, that's the part that I've seen
There's
that's
some
lost.
added value to that.
And maybe they all need to get together.
But the social networks, that's a big component. And I don't think
the
we're
money
utilizing
together.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, there's young kids like Austin. I mean, we're older now. There's kids that are 20 years old now in the world that are deciding things. 21.
Right.
There's got to be somebody in there to be able to go, look, you guys need to get together and work it like this in order for this to be able to work, because it's
a
not
couple
that.
tracks, if they went in and pooled their money together and ran a commercial spot that
And you might be able
endorsed
to-
both racetracks.
And you might be able to get a deal if you're
Right.
doing a.
But the social network component is huge.
It is.
And I don't think anybody did a better job of utilizing all of the social networks than the SLS Promotions, who put that World of Outlaw race on out at Lakeside Speedway. They did a great job.
They bought ads at 810 too, didn't they?
Right. They did all of it. They did all of it. And you know what?
And they had a driver on. Didn't they have a driver on Syringe
they
show?
they scheduled drivers to come on
And
radio, but they did the legwork to
That's
make
what I was
that
gonna
all
say.
happen,
Right.
and they pushed it. And when you promote with an all-in approach like SLS Promotions did with this World of Outlaw race out here,
It pays off, man.
it pays off with a bigger crowd than I'd ever seen at Lakeside Speedway out there.
I agree. It was packed out there.
Well, I think the key to it all is these racetracks need to buy advertisement. And when they go in there and they negotiate their deal,
That's right.
they need to say, listen, I want you to have one of my drivers on once a week.
That's right. We'll bring them in. We'll bring them down. We'll do it all.
Yeah.
We'll take care of all the legwork.
We'll do all the legwork. We'll
You
get
just
it all set up for you.
Give me a little time on the
Yeah,
air.
yeah.
Because you know as well as I do, man, there's still a lot of people driving around listening to the radio. There's still a lot of people that, and social media, like Kirk said, social media, it doesn't cost much to put a social media ad up.
Yeah.
To pop up on people's, it gets fed into the algorithm. And if you're already following race pages, that commercial is going to pop up on your social media page, guaranteed, because we know how it works. So I can't imagine it costs so much money to buy a TikTok ad, to buy a Facebook ad, to buy.
Yeah.
It can't cost that much. It just cannot.
Do you
cost
see
that
where
much.
Twitter might be going out of business?
Yeah, well, they're going to have to come up with some more money.
Yeah.
Did you hear what happened yesterday? The biggest problem yesterday was that the SEC's looking in again because of the Elon Lilly. Somebody created a fake Elon Lilly account and said insulin is free from now on. And then Eli Lilly, the real one, had to come out and say, no, it isn't. And then their stock took a $20 billion hit
Oh,
yesterday.
my gosh.
And when you lose billions of dollars in the stocks, people start telling people what's going on. And so I don't know what will end up happening with this, but there's some craziness. But social media, it isn't that expensive of a advertisement,
be.
and you should be able to flood your market.
Well, even Facebook's.
That's what I'm
had
saying.
some
Facebook
financial
ads,
problems.
the TikTok ads, flood your market if you're having a big race in your
But
town.
I'm saying that those entities have had financial issues.
Right.
Yep.
Not just Twitter.
No, all across the board. Well, like you said, I think that
Well, they just sold Twitter for $44 million.
Billion. Yeah, so they'll be
He
all
paid
right.
too much for it, didn't
They
he?
did. About
it was
20
a bad business to
about
start
20,
with.
About 20 billion too much, but you know.
Grego, he chimed in. He said Kevin liked to stir the pot, and that made for good radio. Miss him. Grego
that
says.
was the toughest thing for me. I'm not speaking for you, but every week we
you
went
were-
on
you
his
were
show.
always nervous when
I
doing it.
was nervous as hell
never seen
every
Kirk-
time because I never knew which
What-
direction he was going to take
Right.
it, and I over prepared for that thing, and most times came off looking stupid because
Nah,
I
I wouldn't do
wasn't prepared. It turned out
that's
I
not
was
true,
never
Kirk.
prepared for what he
That's
brought
not-
to the
that's-
table.
That's not true.
No, you did a good job. You were always. I think
But
you
yeah,
were
you
worried.
agree with me. I was more nervous about that appearance every week than anything we ever did.
Right.
Well, it's a big appearance, like you said. You're
Kirk would always be nervous.
Oh,
he
my
was,
God.
he was stressed. Like it wasn't quite Chili Bowl shootout stress, but it was that next level down. You know.
Kevin,
And
he always let us come up and let us promote our Chili Bowl
He
broadcast.
did. He
Yeah.
I really appreciate what he did for us, but
No doubt.
I was never prepared every time I went on his
to
show.
be honest with you, Kevin is the one that tagged us the
The
Racing
Racing Boys. Yeah.
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 He called you the Racing.
So I really appreciate all he did for us.
Yeah. No doubt.
And he gave us that spot every Friday on his show. And
We did that for about 15 years.
we did it a
didn't we?
long time.
Yeah.
I think the last
And-
time I talked to him, we were at the 810 zone with that lad. We had I mean, not you guys, but we were all together. They had a big thing over there. I don't know if it was Christmas time or something, but we were in there, and he talked to me down the tie line one time, but we'd never talking face to face, and I introduced myself to him, and he said, "Those boys are some good old boys. I just want you to know you're working with some good cats. Just know that." So
Well,
he was a good guy, like I said.
He wanted us to be a part of his podcast, didn't he?
That's
Kurt?
right.
He did.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to back down, not add to.
Right. No doubt.
But anyway, all of that matters. And when we talk about it in terms of local events, if nobody knows that you're staging a big event out there and nobody shows up, don't be surprised why.
Right.
You know, you got to, and you can't just do it the week of the race. You got to start doing it weeks and months in advance of some of these special events.
Remember when we had everybody come out there and drive enduro cars out there at I-70 Speedway?
Yeah.
Kirk Elliott won the race. You remember
Yeah,
that?
and Soren Petro and all Frank Bowl and all those guys were out there.
Kevin Kiesman, everybody
Yeah.
was there. Yeah.
And
they used to go to the races.
Right.
Right.
And I don't think it's any secret that the crowds at Kansas Speedway were jam-packed back in those days.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't think that's any coincidence that now we see not so packed crowds at Kansas Speedway. Why? Because not enough people are talking about what's going on.
Right. The media is not giving them
No.
their dues. Right.
Media matters.
It does matter. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning into the show today. It's all been brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works. Pretty good show. I'm feeling a little under the weather today. I wasn't my normal self today. My blood pressure's up a little bit for some reason.
I don't like hearing that. Take care of yourself, man.
Yeah. I just couldn't really get my act together today. I just felt a little non-typical today.
So, got a little football action today. Tomorrow, I guess I got to watch the F1 race down in Brazil tomorrow, whatever time that. What time's that come on, Austin?
Hey, there's Marie. Marie, I didn't even see that you were there today. So
And the
Noon
NHRA.
tomorrow.
I'm going to be watching NHRA this weekend.
F1's at noon tomorrow.
Yeah,
12 noon.
So Chiefs, we'll be watching Chiefs tomorrow.
I'll be watching the Chiefs.
And there's a
Not Formula
football
One.
game if you have the NFL Network at 9:30 in Germany. First game in Germany.
9 o'clock in the
9
morning.
o'clock.
Who's playing that game?
It's
Bucks, isn't it?
Bucks and darn it,
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good. It's supposed to be a pretty good game. It's the first time they've played
Tom Brady is not very good right now.
Well, he picked
He's
up
old.
a win. He picked up a win last week. You don't kick.
How
him.
old is he? 45 years
40
old?
in his 40s.
I don't think his heart's all in it.
No, I don't think so either. I think he give up his family for football.
Yep. And I
You
heard
know
they-
he's getting a divorce.
I
didn't
heard
he?
that.
And they lost a lot of money yesterday on the stock. I don't know if you heard
He
that
should have
either.
stayed retired, should he?
Both of them lost.
When he announced it?
Yeah.
They said there was a rumor that they both may have lost $650 million on a stock deal yesterday. Yeah.
And she was rich to start with, right?
Yeah, she was a supermodel rich.
She had more money than him.
She had that's
She was
crazy.
supermodel
she
money.
had more money than he did.
You know, his money's like I was telling Austin. These baseball players and basketball players and football. You know, Patrick Mahomes $400 million
They don't live
man.
in reality.
But the guys that are cutting the checks, their reality is a different level than what these football
Right.
you don't understand. These guys that are cutting the checks are living in a way different reality than even dudes that are playing the sport. Like the Richard Childress of the world live in a different world than what the drivers. Those drivers are rich, yeah.
What they say about the owners when they have the owners meetings, that when they all get together, they're a bunch of rich people that have never been told no.
Never been told, not one of them.
Not one of them.
Yeah.
Their whole family.
Right.
They've grown up with so much money you don't even know what no means.
Well, these NASCAR drivers aren't as rich as they used to be.
No, that's the
they're
thing. And the football and I think that's you see that football players are making triple what they were making back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look at Patrick.
you'd never see a
$500 million.
$500 million contract in professional football. That doesn't happen.
It's crazy.
It'll change you, won't it?
It'll make things look a little different in the world, I tell you that.
It's like that guy who won the $2 billion
$2 billion
lottery
One
the other
ticket.
day.
Right.
Well, like they said, money can't buy you happiness, but it'll let you buy a yacht and pull right up next side of it. Is what
much
David
was
Lee
that,
Roth used to
1
say.
Hey, I don't.
$2 billion?
Listen, as long as I had enough money just to get by, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Let me get enough to get in trouble.
You know, the more money you have, the more stress into your life, too, you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I'll take the money.
I'll take the money. Yeah, anytime. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I want to thank Austin O'Neill, Todd Surprise, Blake back at Sports Radio 810 WHB. For my partner, Kirk Elliott, I'm Scott Traylor saying thanks for joining us here on Track Talk. Don't forget about Mostly Motorsports, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Central Time, right here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and RacingBoys.com. Again, for Kirk Elliott, I'm Scott Traylor saying thanks for joining us. We'll see you on Monday.
Track Talk.
There is less than 1/100th of an inch of motor oil protecting your car's engine. Friction and heat causes engine oil to experience thermal breakdown, weakening its ability to protect the engine and its parts. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer is specially formulated to resist thermal breakdown, protect vital engine parts, and extend the life of your engine. It also stops smoking, knocking, and oil consumption in worn engines. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer